What's up guys, Joey here of YugaTech, and we're back with another top smartphone list for mid-2019. This time we're checking out phones under 25,000 pesos. For me, this price range is one of probably the most underrated price ranges, so before we get into it, let's check out our parameters. So included in this list are phones released in 2018 and 2019. They should all be officially or at least readily available in the Philippines. Price ranges from 25,000 pesos down to 15,000 pesos. Lastly, this list is ranked. Rankings are based on our opinions based on our time spent with the devices. So take this list with a grain of salt because at the end of the day, the money is yours. At number 10, we have the Vivo V15. Like the Oppo F11, the Vivo V15 is one of Vivo's mid-range offerings for this year. So same, you also have a 6.53-inch IPS display, but it does not have a water drop notch. It's actually a bezel-less display thanks to the 32-megapixel pop-up camera. You also have a Helio P70 chipset. Instead of dual rear cameras, you get a triple rear camera setup including an ultra-wide lens. You get a 4,000 mAh battery with dual engine fast charging, FunTouch OS 9 on top of Android Pie. So again, aside from that bezel-less display, you also get 128 gigabytes of storage instead of 64 compared to the F11. For this, 6 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs of storage. The Vivo V15 is priced at 15,999 pesos. At number 9, we have the Oppo F11 Pro. So the F11 Pro kind of competes more directly with the Vivo V15. Again, same display size, it's a 6.53-inch IPS. It's bezel-less because of that 16-megapixel pop-up camera. Still Helio P70 chipset, 48-megapixel plus 5-megapixel rear cameras. But what the F11 Pro has that the V15 doesn't is face unlock. You also get a 4,000 mAh battery with VOOC 3.0 flash charge, ColorOS 6 on top of Android Pie. So the F11 Pro has 6 gigs of RAM and 64 gigs of storage, which will set you back 18,990 pesos. But if you want, you might be able to get your hands on the Avengers Limited Edition, which aside from a cooler design, it gets you 128 gigs of storage instead of 64. The Avengers Edition of the Oppo F11 Pro will set you back 19,990 pesos. At number 8, we have the Samsung Galaxy A50. This one is pretty much a crowd favorite. You get a 6.4-inch Super AMOLED display with a water drop notch. You get an Exynos 9610 chipset, triple rear cameras with an ultra-wide camera, 25-megapixel selfie camera, 4,000 mAh battery with 15-watt fast charging. My favorite thing about this phone, you get One UI on top of Android Pie. And for the 6 gig RAM, 128 gig storage variant, it costs 17,990 pesos. At number 7, we have the Samsung Galaxy A70. So with the A70, you have a slightly bigger display at 6.7 inches. It's also Super AMOLED, also has a water drop notch. It ditches the Exynos 9610 for the more powerful Snapdragon 675 chipset. Again, you get triple rear cameras, including an ultra-wide lens, a 32-megapixel selfie camera, a much bigger 4,500 mAh battery with much faster 25-watt fast charging. You also get One UI on top of Android Pie. This variant has 6 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of storage. It will set you back 22,990 pesos. At number 6, we have the Xiaomi Mi 9 SE. So if you're a fan of smaller phones like I am, the Mi 9 SE might be the one for you. You have a 5.97-inch Super AMOLED display with a water drop notch. Compared to the A70, we have a more powerful Snapdragon 712 chipset. We also have triple rear cameras with a telephoto and an ultra-wide, 20-megapixel selfie camera. The battery is a little bit smaller than today's mid-range standards at just 3,070 mAh with 18-watt fast charging, but as we experienced in our review, the battery doesn't really drain that easily. So the Mi 9 SE has 6 gigabytes of RAM and 64 gigabytes of storage. It will set you back 15,990 pesos. At number 5, we have the Vivo V15 Pro. So as to why the V15 Pro is a lot higher than all the items previously mentioned, well, aside from design, this phone has some of the best cameras on this list. So you have a 6.39-inch Super AMOLED display that's bezel-less thanks to the 32-megapixel pop-up camera. You have a Snapdragon 675, which I know it's not as powerful as the 712 from the Mi 9 SE, still performs great though. So you get triple rear cameras including a 48 megapixel sensor and an ultra-wide lens. You have a 3700 mAh battery with dual engine fast charging, FunTouch OS 9 on top of Android Pie. You get 8GB of RAM and 128GB of storage. It will set you back 23,999 pesos. At number 4, we have the Xiaomi Mi 9T. So the Mi 9T is actually the global version of the Redmi K20, so we have the same specs, except that now the MIUI version is the global one, so you do have access to the Google Play Store and Google Apps natively. You get a 6.39-inch AMOLED display, which is bezel-less thanks to the 20 megapixel pop-up camera. You have triple rear cameras, a 48 megapixel sensor, an ultra-wide sensor, and a telephoto sensor. We also have a Snapdragon 730 chipset, which is actually Qualcomm's first gaming-specific chipset. You get a 4000 mAh battery with 18-watt fast charging, MIUI 10 on top of Android Pie. So the Mi 9T is now officially available in the Philippines for 15,990 pesos for the 6GB RAM 64GB storage variant, or 17,990 pesos for the 6GB RAM 128GB storage variant. Moving on to number 3, with the phone that's still number 1 in most people's hearts, we have the Poco F1, the 128GB variant. So the Poco F1 got the number 1 spot in our top smartphones under 15,000 pesos, and now the 128GB of storage variant makes a return for this list. So if you're a fan of this phone, you know how the spiel goes. 6.18-inch IPS display with a honestly dated bar-type notch, Snapdragon 845, 12 megapixel plus 5 megapixel rear cameras, 20 megapixel selfie camera, 4000 mAh battery with quick charge 3.0, MIUI 10 on top of Android Pie. You know, it's the Poco F1 you all know and love. So this variant has 6GB of RAM and, as I said, 128GB of storage. It will set you back 16,990 pesos. At number 2, we have the Xiaomi Mi 9. So you guys might have seen our review of the Mi 9. Basically, we called it a total steal. You got a 6.39-inch Super AMOLED display with a water drop notch. One of the first phones with a Snapdragon 855. It's a really powerful chipset. You get triple rear cameras, including a 48 megapixel main sensor, an ultra-wide sensor, and a telephoto sensor. 20 megapixel selfie camera, 3,300 mAh battery with quick charge 4.0, MIUI 10 on top of Android Pie. And as to why it's a steal, you ask? Well, you have two variants, 6GB of RAM and 64GB of storage, or 6GB of RAM and 128GB of storage, which will set you back 22,990 pesos or 24,990 pesos, respectively. At number 1, you may or may not have guessed it, but we have the Redmi K20 Pro. So yes, we did recently release a few videos about this phone already. I'm gonna say it again like I did in my review. It's already one of my favorite phones to come out in 2019. So it's kind of similar to the Mi 9 in specs. You get a 6.39-inch Super AMOLED display, but this one is bezel-less because you get a 20 megapixel pop-up selfie camera. You also get that super powerful Snapdragon 855, also 48 megapixel plus ultra-wide plus telephoto, although the Mi 9's cameras are a little bit better. A bigger 4,000 mAh battery with quick charge 4.0, MIUI 10 on top of Android Pie. But disclaimer, if you're going to get this phone, the version of MIUI you're going to get is the Chinese version, like the one we have. So the Redmi K20 Pro is not officially available in the Philippines, but we were able to snag ours from a store called Sund. So for RAM and storage, you can get either 6 or 8GB of RAM and 64 or 128GB of storage. So over at Sund, there are 3 variants under 25,000 pesos. The first one is priced at 21,000 pesos, the second one is priced at 23,000 pesos, and the third one is priced at 24,500 pesos. But if you want to shell out a little bit more than 25,000 pesos, the 8GB of RAM plus 256GB of storage variant costs 26,300 pesos over at Sund. Alright guys, that wraps up our list of top 10 smartphones under 25,000 pesos for mid-2019. For my personal recommendations, on the higher side, I recommend either the Redmi K20 Pro or the Xiaomi Mi 9. On the lower side, I recommend the Xiaomi Mi 9 SE. How about you guys? Which phone on this list is your favorite? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, please do drop a like, subscribe to our channel for more content, hit that bell icon to miss any future uploads, and be sure to visit YugaTech.com for the latest tech news and reviews. This has been Joey, and I'll see you in the next one.